So welcome to DBGallery's version 11 updates webinar. So I am Glenn Rogers, and I've worked with most of you online, and I am primarily the product manager here at DBGallery, and I've been here for many years. And I would like to just welcome everyone that has joined today. Interestingly, the majority of attendees today are actually current clients. So as I go through each of these items, feel free, please, to ask questions, because I'm going to go through and I'm going to demonstrate each of our major features in version 11, as well as go over other items. And I would very much like to answer questions as I go through. Of course, you're welcome to leave them to the end if you wish as well. And so what I'm going to cover today is I'm going to cover version 11's major upgrades, which is workflow, version control, annotations, and notifications. And then I'm going to fairly briefly go through some of the major upgrades that have been put in place since version 10 back in March. And then I'm going to talk about some of the small team updates that's coming up. That's one of our very specific services, and I won't spend a lot of time on that. And then, of course, we'll wrap up and talk about where we go from here. Okay. So with that said, I am going to show my browser and get to DBGallery. Okay, so here we are. So to start with, we were looking at workflow. I'm going to do a very brief overview of each of those items, and then I'm going to go through a user scenario where we incorporate all 4 of those major upgrades. Okay? So workflow is where you're able to specify things like essentially their statuses of an image as they go through specific processes. In this case here, that process is an approval process. So when images are initially uploaded, that workflow status is set to new. Then it can go to requires adjustment. A client can do a review. I mean, it can be set to client review requested, approved, and complete. Okay? And as those are set, you will actually be able to see them on top of the images or the thumbnails here themselves. Okay? Let's see. Next was versioning. So as we can see in this particular image right here, we don't have just this particular version. What happens is behind this version or behind this specific image here, there actually are a lot of different versions. So this version here was initially uploaded, then there was changes requested, this got uploaded, additional changes were requested, and we ultimately ended up with this particular file. In the past with DBGallery and perhaps in Windows Explorer or other systems that you may have become accustomed to or used in the past, you have one file for each one of those. So DBGallery allows them to just basically be stacked on top of each other. And of course, you can always get access to them anytime. You can always download that particular version. You can make that version the latest version and so forth. Okay. After a version control, which is certainly a big one, we have annotations as well. So there's a new annotation button here, which allows changes to be made to this image here. So I can do squares, circles, I can do text. So I can put a text message in here that says, fix this. Okay. And the reason for this is for either, you could make it as notes to yourselves, but typically it's used in an approval process or a team scenario where different folks are actually working on a particular image and trying to get it to where it needs to be. Okay. I'm not going to save these changes now. We'll get into that a bit later. And last is notifications. And what they are is when things happen inside a folder or when things happen to a specific image, you can subscribe to email notifications for specific events. So in this case here, for this particular image, I can take a look at the watch. And if someone comments on this image, if somebody annotates it or changes their workflow status or deletes it, you can get an email notification. So what this dialog is doing is it's allowing you to subscribe to these action events. You can do that on the image level, as I mentioned, or you can also do it on the folder level. So you can create folders, and if anybody adds or does anything within there, you'll get a notification. So one very simple example is if a company has an external photographer and you want to know when that photographer uploads new images, you want to get a notification of that happening. And you can do that by simply selecting a notification for adding new files here. And another scenario might be where a client changes the status. And we're going to get into that very shortly. So what I'm going to do to cover all four of these to help demonstrate how it could be used in a real life scenario, and a relatively complex one, I'm going to go to a new blog entry of ours, and that is workflow statuses in digital asset management. Okay? So the very first one mentioned here is a simple one that is used potentially by teams that do not have a complex workflow status. Perhaps all that happens is when new images are added, it's automatically set to new. But at the same time, you want to know when data has been added and when it's ready to really be used. And in that case, you can have things like partial data or data complete. So you know when these images are in a particular state. As a matter of fact, what you can do is you can actually search for ones that are new, and you can see only those, so you can actually do things like add data or whatever you might want to do with an image. Okay. Let's see. But moving down to our more complex scenario here. Okay. So here, this is a creative team, and what they're doing is they're producing a piece of work. And in this case, perhaps it's a multi-layered vector graphic that needs to be approved by the client. And there's often going to be some back and forth with that. Of course, it doesn't have to be a client. It could be someone else on your team. Maybe a junior graphic artist or a photographer is uploading an image initially, and other team members might be approving it. But in this specific case here, we're going to consider a client is actually going to be needing to approve an image. Okay? And for that, we actually need to utilize all four of those new aspects of version 11: event notifications, annotations, version control, and workflows. So to start with, someone on the team uploads a new image file. So I'm going to do that by, I'm going to create a new folder. Webinar example. And inside of here, I'm going to upload a new image. And I'm going to upload this one right here. Okay. So as you can see that, 1 second, I'm going to just move this window a little bit. As you can see, we are now, so that image got uploaded and its status is new. Okay. So what actually would have happened just then is the client would have received a notification in his inbox that says somebody uploaded a new image to your folder. That notification actually is going to come through in just a few minutes. And what I have to do is I'm going to go over here, and you can see in my inbox, it is going to look something like this right here. So you have a new notification from DBGallery, And inside of here, it's probably going to be something like that says somebody added, G. Rogers added a new image to the folder. And you can click on these links and it will take you to that image or to that folder. So, and then, so at this point, the image status is new. Now the client's going to review this and scribbles a few annotations on the image to indicate what needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to make an annotation. And I'm going to say, I'm going to put a little square here that says, and a little bit of text. Image looks dated, especially the arrows. And I'm going to just point out, I'm just going to put circles around some of these arrows here, just to help indicate what the issue is here. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to, as a client, and I'm going to put it in as requires adjustment. Now, what you've seen just happen just a minute ago is this is what the client would have received. Webinar creative team added new image to this particular folder. And the creative team, so I'm just going to go back to my workflow here. So at this point here, the image workflow status is requires adjustment, as can be seen here. Okay. Now, the creative team will receive a notification. Again, there's a small delay, and I won't bother waiting for it. But so now as a creative team, someone is going to go in and open up this image and say, okay, we have a new version. Someone has updated it. So we're going to upload a new version. Very often, that's going to be a repetitive process or a set of iterations for improvement. I'm just going to jump right to the final version here in this particular case. There might be, that situation might go back and forth many times. But in this case here now, I'm going to upload that new version. And I'm going to say client review is requested. The client will get a notification once again. Okay. So I'm actually going to leave here. So I would have been able to log in as the creative team. Well, there's the notifications coming in right here. So I'm going to log back in as a creative team member and go to that folder. Oh, actually, no. I am going to log in as the client. And as a client, I'm now going to make that change. I know it's this one here. So the client's going to say, okay, I'm happy with this now, and I'm going to approve it. Again, the creative team would have gotten a notification. I am then going to log back in as the creative team member. And I'm going to say, okay, so this has been approved. Excellent. So what they're going to do, they're going to open it up. They're going to set the status as being, they're going to upload the very final version. This is just a PNG file. So they're going to say, okay, now that this is completed, I want to upload the Photoshop file. Right? And they can just do that. And so that's now going to allow them to mark this workflow as completed, and we're done with this image. This is going to take just a minute, or actually a few seconds more to upload, and I'm going to wait just for that. And close the dialog, and you'll see that we now have that as a PST. So I'm going to change that status to complete and save the changes. Now, going back to versions, this, you can see here, we actually have a full trail of what has happened to that image. So this was the very first one. Here it was edited. I didn't change users. This was actually done by the client. If I'd have changed users, it would have said the client did it, but I didn't change. I should have done that. And here is where we actually uploaded the newer version. And of course, this is the final PSD version. So you can see, as you look through versions, you can see what has changed in here. So the extension changed from a PNG to a PSD and such. And you can see how the file name changed as well. So with all of that done, I want to close these out and check to see if we have any questions in the chat window here. Okay, no questions so far. Okay, I'm going to close this window up. Okay, so along these same lines of workflow management, this had to do with our current example had to do with photos and images, or I should say photography images or graphics. And you can do something similar with video. We do not support annotations on video at this point. But what happens is if you were to open this up and make a comment on an image, so let's say I'm going to just say this looks good, but remove the start and end 3 seconds. And now that's going to, when I make that, it's going to actually timestamp it as being 4 seconds. So if I were to go over here and then say client review requested, the client can in turn open up this image later on, and when he opens it up, they're able to see that there were comments made here, and this comment was made at 4 seconds. There's a previous comment made here at 10 seconds, and it's really saying, let's remove the Nissan from this particular area. So while we don't do annotations on video frames, it is done reasonably well through comments on the video. And you can go to the particular frames or at least seconds within inside of those videos. And another item in version 11, some areas of the application is changing to a new user interface look. So what you'll see right now is you'll see that this particular area of the application looks quite different. The way we have buttons that are more animated, we have more shadows, we have more depth to the interface. That is actually going to be changing throughout the application over the next few months. There's going to be a little bit of it in version 11, but within, as I said, over the next few months, the entire application is going to change to have this much more modern look to it. So that is really what I had to cover for version 11. Once again, I'm going to check to see if there's any questions in the chat window. Okay, still no questions. If anyone is having trouble finding the chat window, send me an email and I will respond that way. Okay, with that said then, let's move on to some things that have happened between version 10 and version 11. Some of you would have already had that upgrade. Some of you would not have. So I'm going to go to keywords. So I'm going to go here and I'm just going to log in as a creative team member once again. So what we used to have in DBGallery is if you open up an image, you could do a free-for-all type in the keywords in here. So you could type in whatever you wanted. So I could type in sales team here, and it would just add whatever I wanted to add. But what we have now is we actually have a list of existing keywords. So that is a complete separate keyword management area that has been added to DBGallery, and that is up here. Okay? So this gives a full list of all keywords in the system. They can be edited. So I can change highway to freeway, and that will change highway to freeway across the system. So if you have a spelling mistake, that is going to be propagated across all images. So we don't actually store keywords on a specific image anymore. We only store essentially pointers back to the keywords dictionary. So if something changes within the keyword dictionary, that is what all images that have that keyword would show. Keywords can be deleted. They can be added here. So if I wanted to add highway, as well as having freeway, I can do that. And I can put a comma here, and I can just say road. And you can actually import images in here, keywords in here. We allow up to 50,000 keywords to be added to the system. So here now you can see we have freeway and highway. And I'm also going to not allow users to be adding new keywords by setting this as a fixed keywords dictionary. So at that point now, I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to refresh the screen and go back here. And if I were to go in here now, oh, this is probably not a good example. Let me go back over to our video where we actually have highways and freeways and such. Here we go. So here now I can add freeway and highway. And what you'll see is that there is no longer an add keyword in here. You can only choose from existing keywords. It is for folks that wish to just be able to add keywords as they please, simply turn off the fixed keyword dictionary and you can do so. But for those that want to keep control of keywords that can be added to the system, this feature is huge for them. And in managing my very own image collection of about 90,000 images, I really appreciate having previous keywords show up like this and might not be able to randomly add keywords even myself anymore. Okay, so I can do that and press save. Let's see here. Apologies for the noise. Okay, with that, okay, moving on then. If there's no questions on keywords, and I don't see any yet. Okay. And next is improved sharing settings. So previously, let me go back here. Previously, all we had for in the share dialog was just be able to view info or not. Now we allow folks that open up that share link to be able to download images. The slideshow button is really put here just to kind of help keep the interface clean if you don't want to have extra buttons. And I'm going to hide it in this case. And if data is important, I'm just going to force the show of the info panel and the data when it's first opened. So if I do that now and simply press OK, if I open up another browser, pretending I'm the person receiving that link, what they will see is that we actually have that info panel shown over here by default. And of course, as many of you may know, what data is shown in here is completely configurable using data layout settings. So you could have nothing but a description in here or a location or any other data that DBGallery holds for an image. You can have it shown here. Okay? But as you can see over here, there's a download button. If that was a photo, they would be able to download different sizes. And that request came through because clients were sharing images and they actually wanted the folks that were receiving it to be able to download them. And this opens that up. Of course, if you don't want folks that you're sharing images with to be able to download them, simply don't check this download images a checkbox here. Next is Breadcrumbs. This is a relatively small but very useful feature. So breadcrumbs are right here. So all it really is it shows you where you are and how you can get back to different places. So if you were 4 or 5 folders deep, I'm going to just create a new one here, deeper. And I'm going to go in here under deeper. You can see that we have a breadcrumbs listed up here. So now, so even if I have this little closed over here and I don't see that folder view, I can move around in here. I can go back up and down. And if I'm in a collection, same thing. You can see that we're in newsletters and then December. And while we're on the topic of links, I also wanted to show that you can, while you're in full data view here, when you see things like these folders or the image location, you can indeed click on these folders and you can go right to that specific folder. Sometimes you're looking for images and you open up the image, you just got a whole bunch of search results, you don't know where it came from, and you want to go to the folder that image is in. You can do that by clicking on that link here, and we just go directly to that folder, as you can see in the breadcrumbs here. And the same with collections. If an image is in a collection, each collection that it belongs to will show up here, and we can now go and click on that and see client works in progress. Okay, and back to the agenda here. In version 10, we opened DBGallery up to allow all file types. So you could add Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, you could add 3D images, vector graphics, you could add CAD files, anything you could dream of, architectural diagrams or special file formats, it did not matter. What we got was feedback from our clients that says, in some cases, we don't want some file types to be uploaded. So what we added was a feature that said, if you don't want to have any file types, specific file types, you can do so by going to that folder. In this case here, this is a video folder. So what we did is we did a limit file types here. And now from here, you can say there is no JPEGs allowed, PNGs are not allowed, PSDs are not allowed, doc files are not allowed, Excel spreadsheets are not allowed. This is perhaps not a great example because what happens is in some cases, clients simply don't want, some of our clients don't want their team members or their suppliers and such uploading, especially like MOV files and large files. Okay. Okay. But anyway, now on a folder by folder basis, it can be set what file types are not allowed here. And if you don't want file types to be allowed across the entire system, go to the root folder here and set that on this, at this level. The star here indicates that there are file type restrictions on that folder. Okay. Next was a new profile page. So whenever you're logged in, you will see that in here, you can log out, but there's also a My Account. And under My Account, you simply see username and email address and such, but you can also change your password in here as well. You can change your name, email address, and such. If you are subscribing to our small team edition, then you will also see initial sign up date, payment history, and such as well in your profile page here. Next, collections. So even though collections of virtual sets or projects and such have been available in DBGallery for many years now, the small team version did not have that previously, but now it does. So even as of today, the collections may be created inside of the small team version. And of course, collections are simply pointers back to images within inside of folders. So if you want to create newsletters or an ad campaign or anything else, you would be able to just pick any of these images here like this, and you can just drop them over on a particular collection. So this, we might create a new collection in here called December 2020 newsletter. And then inside of here, you have nothing, of course, to start with, but throughout the month, images might be added, and you might want to select these various images, and you can take them and drop them right over on the newsletter over here. I mean, you could, theoretically, what you could do is you could open up this one here. Just 1 minute. I'm going to select just this one image here. I'm going to go to way back to the original version, and I'm going to download just this version. And perhaps what I wanted to do was say that, you know, in the newsletter, we started off with this old image, but then we ended up back with this much more fancy image. And so you can just build up those throughout the month of December. Of course, and then when you're done with that, you can just simply remove these. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to exclude them from that collection. And now they're no longer there because, of course, they still exist back in the folder. Again, they were just pointers back to where they were, and you're just helping you build temporary, or in some cases, permanent collections. And these collections can be called anything. They can be called virtual sets or projects or whatever you want to call them. You simply need to go to the Preferences menu. And if you scroll to the very bottom here, you can change what they're called. So I can call these projects and save that. And if I close this and do a refresh, now that is called project. Oh, okay, there's an extra S, my apologies, but that's what they're called at that point. Okay, so let's go back to the agenda and see where we are. Okay, more notifications. Okay, so I don't see any questions in the chat window still. Okay, so we're a little ahead of schedule, which is good. Next item on the agenda, our small team version has had a fair number of restrictions in the past, but within the next couple of weeks, as we roll out version 11 to that small team version, it's going to open up things like user management, custom fields, and all the features that were listed above. So you will have access to everything that is available, except, of course, you will have a restricted number of users and restricted disk space. But you will be able to manage your own users and own roles, which has been requested quite a bit over the past year or so since that we've had the small team version available. You'll be able to see the audit trail, be able to define your workflows, create custom fields and so forth, do your own data layouts. Actually, you were able to do data layouts previously, so that wouldn't be new. But the small team version is expanding when it comes to functionality. So then we are in the wrap-up stage of this. I still don't see any questions. Okay, we often get significant numbers of questions. I'm a little surprised that we're not getting much today. Okay, so that's okay. So where from here? You know, many people don't go, may not go in here, but under the help section of the main menu, you will see that there actually are a fair number of slideshow tutorials in here. There's a really great getting started tutorial, one on object recognition, collections, especially good, as well as sharing and user management. So if you're new to user management, this slideshow tutorial is available in here, of course. And this is Notifications, which is new to version 11. Custom fields tutorial. Each of these tutorials, you can view them right here, but of course they're very small. But you can just simply click this button right here and go to full screen to view that tutorial. Okay. Right, and we're actually having much like our new user interface that I had mentioned, our help system is going to be looking a little different very soon as well. So we'll have items like this, and if you're looking for help on, a brief overview of workflows, that will be here. You can scroll down, go to the workflow tutorial itself. We'll pop down to version control. We'll go over here to what's happening with the activity monitoring, and you'll be able to have a much better, this is a quick overview, and they usually point to tutorials right after that. So let's see, we must have a tutorial on custom fields, for example. And if you click here, go to further see our custom fields tutorial. Okay. Okay. That is it. That is all I had on the agenda. And I am not seeing any questions. I put a sample question in here because it actually got asked at a last webinar that I had. And it asked if search results can be added, can be created. I mean, if a collection can be created from a search result. So if I do a search in here and I was going to look for a highway, I think I tagged it as a highway. And well, let's actually, I'm just going to open, it's not quite right. I'm going to do a highway. What was the keyword in here? So I'm going to add a keyword that says collaboration. So if I save this and my search, it says highway or collaboration. So we get both of these now, okay, or three of them. I'm going to take all of these. So I can't actually right click on this and say, and there's no way to create a collection from that directly. But what I can do is when I've got these search results here, I can go over and I can create a new project, of course it's called now, and say results sample. And then I can take those search results and I can drop them over here onto that collection. So if you have a very sophisticated search result and you want to have them all in a particular collection, you can do that. Next one, are more changes coming to DBGallery? Absolutely. 2020 has been a huge year for DBGallery. We released version 10 in March. And then, of course, shortly after that, we had version 10.1, 2, 3, and 4. And now with these huge changes for version 11. And we have a very large backlog of cards in our Agile Trello board that we are working through over the next few months. So I wish to thank you for continuing to be DBGallery users for those that are. And if not, I will welcome any questions from potential new clients. And if any questions come up after this webinar, anyone on the call, please feel free to send me or support@dbgallery.com a question, and I'm sure we'll get back to you in no time at all.